which is nice. Welcome to the Anyone Can Farm Experience live chat. I'm Mark, your host, coming to you from Baker's Green Acres in Marion, Michigan. Um, tonight's show is titled Fortifying the Homestead. And this is going to be kind of a fun show. It'll be kind of a little longer. I can tell you that right now because there's a lot to it. We got the chat on, and I don't mind if you guys throw a question in here or there. This is a subject that is close to my heart. It's called Fortifying the Homestead. If I had to put it in other words, it would be somewhere along the lines of a prepping. You would call it prepping, all right? But we won't. We're homesteaders, small farmers, and so let's just keep it right there. I have nothing against prepping, you know. Like I've told you guys a million times, I have to prep all the time. I have to prep for. I was outside prepping before I came in for what I need to do tomorrow. So I'm preparing. So this fortifying the homestead is something that I want to explain. What are you talking about, fortifying the homestead? It might sound like I want to put rebar in, if I'm going to pour concrete, or I want to build some, fortifying like you'd fortify a fort or something like that. And I'm not necessarily coming from there, although in some applications, hey, maybe. But before I get going, I want to bring to your attention our sponsors for tonight. One of them is the Homestead Hog Harvest class, and that is starting November 4th through November 6th. So if there's anybody that is hearing my voice and would like to come to that, call the farmhouse and talk to Jill. There are 2 seats open. 2 seats. I kind of know what's going on this year. Normally, our classes are 12 persons, and we very rarely have a hard time filling the class. And we didn't have a hard time filling this class. I mean, we didn't have a hard time filling the 10 people. I mean, we just put it out there. Hey, we're doing this. Who wants to come? And then we put our heads back down and got back to work. And 10 people responded. I haven't hit it real hard on this platform, and Jill hasn't hit it real hard on her end. Not real hard, sort of hard, but not real hard. And so we've got 10 people. There's 2 seats open, but I'd love to fill them. So if you guys know anybody that would like to participate in the Homestead Hog Harvest class that's starting this Friday at noon, high noon, and we'll finish up Sunday about 2 or 3 in the afternoon, depending on how the class goes. I mean, we have people, I'm looking at you, Jay-Z, that like to hang around until late in the afternoon, which is okay, because we do have a lot of fun. The people that come to our classes generally are a jolly group of people, very interesting people, actually. And this year is going to be the best class ever, because I've been fortifying the homestead, and part of my homestead operation is adult education on homesteading stuff. And so I have been working hard at making things more streamlined here for everything that goes with this class. Just for your edification, I will tell you that this class, we do slaughter 2 pigs, and then we scald and scrape them. We split them in half, or eviscerate them, then split them in half, get them laid out on the trailer, cool them down overnight, and then Saturday morning we're breaking them into primals, and then we're breaking some of those primals into subprimals, and this is where you learn how to cut up a pig, right? And then on Saturday afternoon, leading into Sunday, we're doing the preservation part of it, I would say. So making sausage, making bacons, making prosciuttos, things like that. I would call that preservation. Later on in the year, we're going to do a charcuterie class. Oh, it's right here. Charcuterie class is going to be, let me see here, December 11th and 12th. And that is the art of pork preservation. That's basically what it is. But when you put on a class like this, some of the things that, and I'm telling you this because the nature of this operation, anyone can farm experience. The nature of that is we need to backfill ourselves, right? When we move on to the next thing, someone's got to take our position, right? So we've had people come forward and say, hey, I wouldn't mind teaching that class. And so we're heading down to Declarix the weekend after next, and we're going to do a class there. And the idea is that Tommy and Beth DeCleric are going to be learning this process. They've taken the class. Now they're going to be stepping back and watching us conduct the class. And when we walk away, okay, are you ready? Can you conduct this class? It really isn't brain surgery, but there's just a lot of components and there's a sequence to it because you've got people coming to your property and you're doing a process, and then all of a sudden, holy smokes, it's lunchtime. So now we've got to get people fed. We can't tell them, go to Subway. That's not going to work. And there's a reason why that doesn't work. And we can't say, bring your own stuff. That doesn't work either. Hospitality is a function of homesteading. It is. And I can tell you that if you go to any of the factory farms around here and say, "Oh, can we have a tour?" They're going to say, "No, we don't want you coming in here. You might see something that you tell people on." But hospitality is when we're all about this type of farming, and we love to swing the doors open and say, "Hey, come see what we're doing. It's cool." And oh, you want to do it? We'll help you. And it's not just us. We are attracting people, the likes of Jay-Z, that are going to do the same thing. And let's see who else we got. I don't want to miss anybody. I know we got Mrs. Giddy Guernsey is on here. Keith Satansky. Dave and Sonia is with us. Your name came up today, Dave and Sonia. Who was that? Oh, it was Tatum Miner. And she said, you've got to do something along the lines of getting Sonia to somehow conduct a class on bartering. There's way more to it than just trading, like trading baseball cards. Way more to it. Anyway, when people step up and say, hey, I want to teach a class too, it's like, great. It's a good facet of the homestead, and plus it spreads our footprint out. And after all, are we not at this point in American history dealing with problems that stem from our lack of self-sufficiency? When you really get down to it, I heard Penny Kelly say this morning. It's along the lines, yes, I listen to Penny Kelly. She's a fellow Michigander, even though I'm a transplant. But I tell you why I listen to Penny Kelly. I'll tell you that in a minute. But she said, we have been coerced. I believe she used the word coerced. And she's talking about we, citizens, not necessarily citizens of just the United States, but we, humanity, has been coerced into relying or staking our existence on money. If I won the lottery, people say that. Well, I'd love to get into farming if I could only win the lottery. like farming has anything to do with money. I mean, like, oh, I'd play golf if I could only win the lottery. Like, what? You know, if you want to do it. And I want to go through a little of that in tonight's presentation too, that, this doesn't happen overnight. And I don't think you even want it to happen overnight. It's almost like I married my wife and 2 weeks later, if I had a party and said, we've lived happily ever after for the last 2 weeks, wouldn't carry much, you know, but I've been married to her for a long time. Let's see, 27 years coming up here. Excuse me, Jill, if it's incorrect, but it's a long time. It's over 20. I know that. And there's been ups, downs. And right now, if I put a post on Facebook or whatever, it would say, we've lived happily ever after the whole time. There's been ups and downs, believe me. But, and you really couldn't get to this point in 2 weeks, in a marriage. And so your homestead is a course that you plot, and it doesn't necessarily have to be on that piece of soil. It could be like we started homesteading in 1994 at a different farm. And it was Baker's Green Acres then. It's Baker's Green Acres now, but we're on a different location now. And the things we learned there, we've taken them further. Have we arrived? Absolutely not. I don't think you do arrive. You might get to a point where you say, that's about it. That's the last thing I want to do. I don't know if that will ever happen to me because I enjoy this too much and I'm too intrigued by the next thing. It's just very intriguing, the things that you come across. I recommend this for everyone. And I think it is the answer to a lot of the problems that we face in the United States is our lack of uh, sustainability and durability as individuals, and uh, our ability to, let's see, what's the word? Craig Schaff likes to use this word. I like it too. Resilience, our resilience. Because resilience is when you get booted, but then you get back up. And homesteading teaches that because it's a daily of getting booted. And then you don't have a whole lot of choice. You've got to get back up because you have something that you've started. It's moving ahead. And a lot of times, my feeling is, what have I done? I've started something that I couldn't take apart anytime soon. And by the time I come to my senses, this doesn't happen to me anymore. But there's been times when I've said, I quit. And luckily, by the next day, I didn't get around to quitting. So I just keep going, But in homesteading, you continually have obstacles to overcome. And you get to a point where you're like, okay, I got that one, like my friend Rush Limbaugh used to say, I can read the stitches on a fastball. I always like that analogy. You see it coming. It's like that with animals. After a while, what they're going to do. The dumb things that they're going to do, and they do it. And you just learn how to prevent those things from happening. All right. Belva's with us. Right on. Mike H., the question was pertaining to... Okay, I better back up. Okay, sometimes I would just love to come work at your place for a weekend just to get away from my crazy world down here. Well, ring my phone, right? There's a campground next door, and I would love to have your help here for the weekend. I would love it. You could eat with us and everything. Mike H, do you dispatch both at the same time, then process both? Absolutely. No, we don't. We don't. And I'll shoot one, we'll get it processed, and all the way down till we split it, and then we do the next one. Okay. All right. And Belva's with us. Right on. Okay. So, fortifying the homestead. You know, those of you that have listened to me have heard me say that a lot of times, but there's new people coming all the time. And here's what I mean by fortifying the homestead. A lot of times I say fortifying your position, fortifying your position. So, a good way to understand this is to think about a position on, let's say, a battlefield, right? It, it, Homesteading, is it a war? Sometimes, yeah, yeah. It's you against all those little entities out there that are trying to take it down. So it is kind of a war, and so I like to use this analogy, and it was pounded into my head for 20 years, and then I used it to pound it into other people's head. So let's say that for some reason you need to sit in a position meaning could mean like on a ship. This wouldn't necessarily pertain to a ship, but on in an Air Force scenario or Army scenario, Marine scenario, and it could be the Navy too. But let's say you've got a position and you are observing that way, and you may be listening that way, and your job is to man that position, continue to observe. You stay awake because if you see something, you're going to want to make yourself a very small target, because maybe there's bad guys out there that want to shoot guns at you. You know, we've got a couple of skeeters in here that want me. And when you're in that position, you could get bored because a lot of times you're looking out at nothing, absolutely nothing. Or if there's something out there, it's moving real slow. So while you're looking at nothing, the tendency could be to, um, I don't know, read a novel or, um, I don't know, count your fingers or do something other than observing and listening what you're supposed to do. So there's always going to be some guy coming along that's going to make sure that you're not doing that or sleep. You know, it's really boring. You could nod off. Usually you put two people on a position like that so they don't sleep. They don't both sleep. And the thinking is you can always fortify your position. You can always make the position that you are in better. And when you look around, okay, let's say you're in a dirt hole, it's got sandbags up around it. Then you've got a board that's holding up sandbags across the top, and you're looking out through a little slot like this, and you're like looking, and oh, yeah, okay. And then you look for a while, and then you're bored, and you say, well, how could I make this position better? Okay, how can I make this position better? Why would I want to make the position better? It's fine. Well, you could fill a sandbag, and that sandbag could be the one that catches the bullet that had your name on it. Or you could just sit there and do nothing, like a bump on the log. You could be just a little dweeb, little punk, and we'll find you in a puddle of blood in the bottom of the hole, right? But if you're making the position better, then you're going to do your job better. You're going to be what? More comfortable, better entertained, maybe. Oh, I know how you can make this position better there, Sergeant Baker. I could bring a TV out and then I could watch TV while I'm not watching the field. Yeah, that's not gonna work. I could just look at YouTube videos. No, that's not gonna work either. No, it would have to be something that enhances what you're doing, right? So let's say, and I've been in this position before, where the only way that I could look out that little slot was if I was standing up, That's not so good. I wish I had something to sit on because then I could lean my chin against the sandbag and I could just keep scanning back and forth and back and forth, you know? So, hey, I'm going to go find a piece of wood that I can put in the ground here. I can put a sandbag on top of it and I can sit on top of that. That'll work. Yeah. Okay. Good. What about if you're at a place and it's cold? Well, I think I'll put some sandbags up around the side of me too. Well, you don't really need that because, there's no fire coming from that direction. Yeah, but it'll keep the wind out. Well, that's a good initiative, lad. Do that. Put some sandbags up or something to block the wind. Oh, looks like it's going to rain. Hey, I know what I could do. I could get some sticks and put them from the back up, and then I could put a poncho up over there, lift up some sandbags and put it over it, and then everybody else will be getting soaked and I'll be dry. Like a 6 hour shift sitting in a dirt hole is bad, but a 6 hour shift sitting in a dirt hole and being soaked is worse, you know? And the people that are putting you out there to man that hole, they don't care if you get soaked. It doesn't matter. If you don't want to get soaked, that's up to you. So you can always fortify your position. You can always make it better. So that's what we want to talk about on the homestead is how do we make our homesteads better, right? And I'm sure a lot of people contemplate that. And now, as well as 2 months ago, we are still seeing things to where we're thinking, who the hell's in charge here anyway? You don't really know who's in charge, and things don't look so good. And we're hearing, windy stories. Uh, we've heard a lot of windy stories, but some of them you got to think. Do I want to fortify my position in accordance with the windy stories that I'm hearing? You can't say just no, totally no. You can't. You can't. That wouldn't be good because then you'd be subject to a double cross here, right? A long time ago, there was windy stories about a certain disease going around. Now, right away, I knew the language that they were using, and I made a decision. I'm hitting the disregard button on that. I'm not going to play those games. I'm going to use my time better, more effectively to do what I need to do. So no matter what, I'm going to go this direction to fortify my position. Okay. Um, and then lately, a certain guy that's in a certain place I got to talk like this because I got 2 strikes, and it's because I said things that they didn't like. So I'm going to stay away from a lot of those things. Um, like you can't talk about certain things or they knock you off. And I get one more strike and then we're toast. Said that there's going to be shortages of grub. Now, just because that guy said it, should I disregard that? I can't. I can't do that. That's something that could happen without any regard to what this guy has said. That could happen, and we are always working against that. We always want to have stores, provisions to make it through. Right? We always want to have food. If you get hungry and you have no food for about 3 days, things get really rough, and you don't want to go there. You just don't want to go there. You want to be able to maintain your position and do life. And if if you go hungry in a country like this, there's a good chance that somebody's working to make that happen. And we have not seen this yet. However, I am getting sporadic reports of the the rumblings of that, like some empty shelves at the store, certain things, and increase in prices of food at the store. I am getting that. And is that the precursor to actual food shortages, or is it just, business people that say that raise prices because they can? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Winter's coming, so we will see. Or time goes on, so we'll see. I can't really predict that one, but that right there, when I heard that, I said, okay, well, I'll just bear down on what I'm doing, because I am always working against starvation because I'm in the farming business, and that's what we do is create food. I do other things too, like adult education, but the farming is something that I will always want to do. I'll always want to grow my own food. And, here on this farm, we have beef cows, milk cows. I drink a lot of milk, really like milk. I eat a lot of beef, really love beef. I have pigs, and we do a lot of pastured poultry. I have a whole bunch of laying hens, so I eat eggs quite a bit. Let's see what else we do. We do other stuff too. I do like field crops and cut a lot of hay and stuff like that. And I grow some mushrooms and things like that. So my work is centered on food production. So there's a principle known as atrophy, and it's like if you grow something, something is trying to destroy it. So you're fighting it. It's kind of a battle. If you're an army uh, guy and you're trying to hold a position, somebody's trying to take it from you. And if you sleep, they'll get it from you and they'll probably cut your throat. So you want to fortify your position in every way that you can. But we got to do it smart. So I've been thinking about this today and thinking, well, how do you? It's pretty easy for me to say, no, don't do that now. Don't waste your time on that now. And no, do that now. It's pretty easy for me to do that because I've been in this for a while, right? Repetition, season after season after season, uh, being without because I didn't do. Um, it's not going to happen again if I can help it. One year, I'm not kidding you. This is how spaced I was. I mean, I came out of very controlled life in the military, and then all of a sudden I'm here and I'm not being told what to do by anybody. I'm just on my own trying to decide what is a priority and what is not. One year, I kid you not, I used our lawnmower. We had a lawnmower, it was a little John Deere, like tractor lawnmower, sit down lawnmower. We still have it, we don't use it anymore. And I had a little wagon behind it, and I was using it to haul feed around that I was buying by the bag. And I hauled some feed down to where I used to keep the chickens. I've moved the chickens like 4 times now. And the battery died on it. Instead of fixing it right away and getting it out of there, it snowed. And it snowed like 8 inches. And so then I went and got the battery, charged it, started it, and tried to drive it out of there. Didn't go out of there. Where did it sit all winter long? Right there. Right. And so when I would go out there, I would say, man, you don't know what you're doing. How did that catch you by surprise? And that's just an example. So I thought a way to break this into 4 pieces, your prioritization of um, fortifications would be, I'll break it in 4 pieces, and the 4 pieces will be summer, fall, winter, and spring. That makes it easy because that is, no matter where you live, you've got those seasons. Some of them might be kind of blurred, the lines might be kind of blurred, but things are different throughout those seasons. So Yeah, we're in fall right now, and we're going into winter. So if I am fortifying my position, I'm going to look at what are the things that I absolutely need for this season that's coming. Here I am in northern Michigan. We get a lot of snow, gets pretty cold, a lot of ice. You know, it can, some people find it a little bit uncomfortable, but I think that if you're able to process it properly and be prepared for it, it's actually a beautiful time of year because the pace of life is slower, longer nights to sleep, time to do some of your work that you don't want to do in the summertime because it's so nice out. So now you can move some of those projects indoors. If you plan correctly, you can have spaces indoors where you can do some really neat things. And you don't feel as though you're taking time away from living things. I put it that way. Like if you have a field like I have right now that should have been planted about a month ago, but I am going to get it planted before snow falls. Uh, and then I was doing a project in the house. I might feel like get out there and get that done. Oh, it's cold. Get out there and get it done. But when it is cold and the ground's frozen, and there's a foot of snow on the ground, I can't do it now anyway. So I will work in the shop. I have a shop I can work in to do mechanical things, or make stuff out of wood, or I can work in the butcher shop to process um, beef or pork or things like that. There's always something for me to do. In the summertime, working with beef and pork in the shop, I got to run an air conditioner because otherwise everything is just greasy, and that's no fun. It's kind of nice in there when I can turn the heater on in January when it's 0 degrees outside and I can warm it up just to 20 in there. That's nice working conditions. It really is. If you have long johns on and stuff, it's good. But you got to know that. Like if like before I go to bed, oh, it's going to be 0 tomorrow. When I get up in the morning after I take my swim, I would say, yeah, I think I'm going to wear long johns today. And then I'll turn the heat up in there. We'll get it up to 20, and I'm going to cut some beef. I'm going to spend the day cutting and wrapping beef. Yeehaw. Good time. Real good time. Very productive, moving ahead. Um, okay, so fortifying my position here for winter time is at the top of my list fuel. It's fuel. Yes, it is at the top of my list. Um, I heat the house with wood heat. We have a wood burning stove, and I'm sure you guys know, and also have an oil burner, but I don't use it. I want to replace it with a different one, and I better do it quick because I keep jumping around. Well, maybe I could do with this, or maybe I could do with this, or But I want to put something in so that if we and I'm looking down the road. I'm looking down the road. There can come a time like this winter. We left the last winter. We left to go down to sunny Texas to go to Crunchy Mama Farms to do a homestead hog harvest there, and somebody had to stay here and keep the wood fire going. So we had to leave one of our best people behind. Of course, somebody had to stay and milk the cows too. So it worked out okay. But I would like to, when I do leave like that, whoever is left behind to take care of the cows really only has to worry about the cows. They don't have to worry about letting the wood fire go out or safety with that and all that stuff. I want to be done with that. So I'm looking seriously at an alternate source of heat to go in the basement. I got to do that. Got to get that done. Probably should have done that. I still could get it done. My number two on that is going to be provisions for the animals, right? It kind of goes without saying. I should say it. My number two is not going to be that. My okay, let's say my number two is going to be provisions for the people that live here. So all of that happened in the late summer and fall. That's when a lot of stuff gets canned, a lot of preserved, a lot of meat gets put up, a lot of uh, a lot of stuff happens then. Stuff coming out of the garden, um, and so we make sure that there's enough food for us. Let's say we have a really tough winter and there's trees down across the road and you can't get out of here either way, which does happen. Um, and I suppose we could be out there clearing it if we had to get out. But if we don't have to, if I don't have to clear the road, I'll just wait for the county to do it because they're getting paid to do it. And I'll be well fed until it gets done. And that way I'm not working on that. Not saying I wouldn't, but that is what we pay them for to do. So we would let them do it probably. Of course, there might be some good firewood comes down and I could get that. All right. So that's what I do. And then there's a lot of other things that come with my animals for the wintertime that I have to look at and I have to prepare for. When you have cows or cattle, they're going to go through a lot of water. They're going to go through about 10 gallons per day per animal. Some a little more, some a little less, depending on what they're doing for a living. If they're just eating for a living, a little less. If they're making milk for a living, a little more. If they're young, not so much. If they're older, they drink a lot of water. And so I have to make decisions on how I'm going to do that. And there's a lot to consider there. So on this farm, I have kind of two choices. One is the pond, and that means I have to keep the pond open all winter long, which can be done. You have to open it up every morning, and you'll get inch of ice overnight. And breaking an inch of ice is actually not too hard. You just have a bar with a wedge on the end, and you go down and you break it. If you can keep it in a couple of pieces, then you push those pieces under, and you have clear water, and it'll steam. So that means the heat is coming out of the water. And usually during the daytime, even if it's pretty cold, uh, the water will stay open, and the cows will go down and drink from that. And they have a tendency to keep it open too. And even some nights, it doesn't freeze over enough to even warrant opening it up in the morning. It's just when it gets like January through the end of February, it can be a little bit rough. If you miss it a day, which you really couldn't, you really shouldn't, because, can you imagine going a day without drinking water? You can't do that to the cows. I don't, that's not the only way I do it. I actually don't do it that way much. I have done it in the past. I'm considering doing it this winter. But I also have a trough that I keep in the barn, and I keep a heater in there. But see, the problem with that is, let's say that we have an electricity failure. I don't really want to run a generator just to heat water when I have a pond full of water that if it's open, I don't have to do anything. So in my case, it makes sense to keep that pond open, at least, a 6 by 6 section of it going out. It makes sense for me to do that. That's me. Your place would be different. But water is very important in the wintertime. So then we get into, okay, how does your water come up? How do you get your water? Is it a stream? Is it a brook? Are you hauling water? Do you have a well? And if you have a well, is your well going to function if you lose electricity? Do you have electricity that will, do you have a generator that will produce the correct amount of electricity to run your well pump? If you don't, that's a priority. That is a priority right there. And it's up there. That is up there, right? If you, let's say you have 4 cows and you have a power outage, and the power outage is because you've got trees across the road everywhere, and so you have no electricity and no way to run your well, how are you going to get 40 gallons of water to your cattle? How are you going to do that? And what happens if you don't? They start acting a little bit weird, right? They have to have their water. It's quite important. Um, and it's more of a challenge in the wintertime. I'll just tell you that. Water in the summertime generally isn't that much of a challenge, not nearly as much as it is in the winter, because in the wintertime it's turning to ice, so so many times when it's really cold here, I don't know how many times this has happened. I will need to fill the tank in the barn, and the way I do it is probably not the most efficient way, but I keep a hose down in the butcher shop, and I reel the hose up every other day, and then when I'm ready to water the cows while I'm milking or somebody's milking, I'll pull it out, put it in the trough, turn the water on, and about the time you're done milking, it's full. And then you have to, shut the water off, let it drain back down into the butcher shop, and then, uh, roll it up. And there should be no reason why you don't roll that up instantly. Should be none. But A, the phone will ring, or B, somebody will park over it, or somebody will stop and want to talk to me. And it's a good conversation. You guys know I love to talk. And when I go to reel it in, it starts creaking, right? And you're trying to put it in a coil, and it's got frozen, it's got ice inside of it. And I think, well, it'll probably be thawed by the morning, and you come out in the morning and it's even frozener. And so you've got to get that thawed out. Why? Because the cows got to have their water, right? So you learn about water and freezing a lot in this business, especially with cows, especially with cows. Not so bad with pigs, because luckily we are in a snow zone. So as soon as we get snow, the pigs just eat snow. And I know a lot of people don't like to hear that. They think it's kind of mean, but if you put water out for them, they just tip it over and play in it and get wet, and then they eat snow. So, all right. So that's kind of what we do to fortify ourselves for winter coming. All right. Then I'm in winter, making it through, plenty of firewood, plenty of food. Uh, Spring's coming. How do I get ready for spring? How do you get ready for spring? I'll tell you how I do it. I take out the old uh, Mother Earth News magazine, let's say, or start listening to videos that were shot in the summertime, about planting in the spring. I start getting myself psyched for spring is here. What are we going to need to do to get our spring off to a good start? Why? Because we're looking at summer and then fall again, right? So how are we going to get our spring off to a good start? And a lot of times for me, I'm looking at pictures of other things, things that people have planted and different setups they have for sprouting their starts, and it gets me interested in doing that in the spring. And I start to put together a plan, and then I'm making it through, the tough part of winter, and then all of a sudden I'll be outside, and is that a bird that I just heard chirp? And then spring starts to come on, the chorus begins, trees bud, daffodils come up, all that stuff happens. And if I am ready for it, I can really enjoy my spring. I have a lot of time in the winter to start getting ready for spring. So spring doesn't necessarily represent a crunch time. You don't want that. You really don't. Um, Let me say a little bit more about wintertime. Uh, you have a tendency, or I have a tendency, to sleep a little longer, stay up a little later at night, and maybe not utilize my time as good as I could. I got to be honest with you. I do that, and I don't have to do that now. I've Things have changed. All right. There was a time when I really didn't have any place to work inside on anything of any size. I just didn't have the space. Things have changed though, and we've converted some space in our barn to a place where we can do bigger things. And I've actually insulated it, and I've actually put windows in where there was no windows before. It was just open. So when you were in there and a wind was coming out of the southeast or southwest, forget it. It was a wind tunnel. You couldn't be in there. It would keep the snow off of you, but that's about it. It was cold. You couldn't touch tools because they got so cold. I mean, you could, but it wasn't something where that I felt as though I could work productively and timely. I did work down there a lot. I built a lot of stuff, but it was always no fun. And I go through some of the projects that I built, and I thought, wow, I remember doing that. That was no fun, but I did it. But I remember when I was a kid changing a transmission in a snowbank, and that sucked. But I did it. All right. So if you do planning, if you need to fortify your homestead, and you know that winter's coming, which for some people can be a very difficult time, prepare for it by you like know your enemy. Start to think about winter, and instead of just saying, "Oh, I'm going to ignore it," no, think about it. Think, well, how could I change things here so winter is not such a problem? And I reckon if I lived in Florida, I would be dreading summer because it's so hot. Like, what would I do? Oh, I would buy a brand new pickup truck, I suppose, with an air conditioner in it. Where up here, my truck didn't come with an air conditioner, right? So it doesn't have one. I don't need it. But a heater, I kind of need that. Like if I'm going to be plowing snow, which you guys know I like plowing snow. But why do I like plowing snow? I like plowing snow because this is really where it comes from. I plowed snow when I was a kid, right? And I felt like the big man. Look at me plowing snow as a 17-year-old. It was in somebody else's truck, the guy I worked for. And turns out his truck was a 76. Mine's a 74, the one I have now. But used to listen to tunes back then, his radio. And now I have my own radio, and I can listen to the same tunes. So that's why I like plowing snow. I just do. Yeah. It's kind of a plowing snow for me is sort of a facilities thing. Like when you're a kid, a little kid, you're in the sandbox and you get to make roads, and then drive your trucks on the roads. And when I go out in the morning after we've had a heavy snow, it's like I got to build roads now. And sometimes I put roads where there were no roads before, where I don't drive usually, just because I can, and it would be fun. Like maybe we could drive back there with the Jeep or snowmobiles or something like that. And you kind of are carving out a little place to live. I got to plow the regular stuff, But then sometimes I get creative by plowing places that I don't have to plow. I just want to. I used to go really crazy with it. I used to have a real good time with it. Um, when I was stationed at Loring, which is in northern Maine, I told a guy one time that had the authority over the area. He says, I can plow that pond there so people could skate. And he says, you drive a truck out on that? I said, sure, I would. It's January. I drive a front end loader out on there. And he said, if you want to do it, go for it. I bet you somebody would have said no, but I just went and did it. And people started skating, and they almost thought that it was like an official base function. And I used to just borrow this guy's truck and plow it, and then we ice skate out there. Fun, great time. That's what I should do this summer. I should build an ice skating rink. I know how to do it. All right. That's another thing. I mean, now that I think about that, as you're, let's say you're in summertime and you're thinking about fortifying your position, your homestead for winter, and let's say that there are some morale issues around the colder months, which there are. Not me, of course, but some people. You have to think, how could I alleviate those morale problems? And a lot of times it's recreation. So you're in the summertime and you know winter's coming. What is it that you can get a really good deal on in the summer that you can't use in the summer? Anybody know? Snowmobiles, right? Ice fishing equipment, um, ice climbing equipment, skis, cross country skis, ice skates, all that stuff you can get in the summertime because people are dumping that stuff to get motorcycles and four wheelers and let's see, stuff, sea-doos and stuff like that, stuff that you use in the summertime. So there's a couple of ways to approach that, but probably the smartest way is just suck it up for 1 year as a winter guy and get you what you can afford, like a snow shovel, and then really, make a game out of it. Shovel your driveway and then time it and see if you can shovel it quicker than that the next time. And that'll be your recreation. And don't spend any money that winter. Just shovel your driveway. The next winter, you'll have money saved up, or by the next summer, you'll have money saved up. Get you a snowmobile in the summer and have it ready to go. And then you'll be like, man, when is it going to snow? When is it going to get cold? What is this? So instead of saying, I'm so glad it's warm. I hope it just doesn't get warm this year. Hope it just stays warm. Hope it doesn't snow. You'll be the other way. You'll be saying, I wish it would snow. Why is it not snowing? And then that first snow comes and you're like, oh, good. I'm going to get my snowmobile fired up and I'm going to get out there and drive around. And so your perspective on it will totally, totally change. Completely change. And then if you want to, and you really want to get radical, you can start swimming and never stop. You can swim in the summertime in the morning, and you can swim in the wintertime in the morning. And I do this, and it's worth doing. I mean, my brother-in-law told me I could never do that. And I told him, if you did it for a week, you would probably never stop because you get a buzz from it in the morning. Telling you, drink that half a cup of coffee, go out, change into your bathing suit, get in that pool, swish around, maybe pick up some leaves and throw them out, go underwater, do it in the dark. I do it in the dark. I feel like a Navy SEAL swimming. I'm putting landmines on ships in the freezing cold weather. I'm SEAL Team 6. And then I get out. And then I come back to reality. I come in, I stand by the wood stove, finish that cup of coffee, And then once I get dressed, I'm like ready to uh, be another SEAL Team 6 guy, and kill Osama bin Laden. I'm ready to go, but I don't do that. I just come out and I do farming stuff. But still, it's a war. It's a war, Larry. It's a war. Um, all right, so we've talked a little bit about getting ready for spring. Um, if you needed a something to do, a good thing to do is to do starts. You get your seed catalogs. Oh, that's a good morale booster right there. You send off for a seed catalog from like Baker Creek or Johnny's, and you get these seed catalogs, and you'd swear where they took the picture, it's already spring, and so it's coming, and you just can't wait. It gets you psyched, and order your seeds, and then as you get good at that, you could even get a greenhouse going. Like we have a double filament greenhouse, which means there's 2 layers of stuff, and we do starts out there. Actually, the last couple of years we haven't, only because a lot of the other things that we're doing has taken precedence, and we always know that there are other people around, other homesteads that do it, and we defer to them. Like we'll go and spend money with them rather than putting the time into it ourselves, and that's a conscious decision that we make to do it, not really out of the goodness of our heart, but just out of the lack of time for the other things that we're doing. Our greenhouse right now has turned into a season extension unit, to where the things that were planted in there will continue to grow deep into the winter, like Brussels sprouts and kale, and there's a bunch of other stuff in there. I'm not even sure, but it's been low priority. Actually, has been low priority. All right, and then spring going into summer. This one's not as hard for most people. It's sort of a transition. For me, I cut hay in the summertime, so that's when the grass is nice and high, and I've got to get out there and get that cut and baled and then stored, and that is actually preparation for fall and winter. I am feeding hay right now. I don't need to do that, but I am using it as a training tool for my cows because I am getting some new cows. And it's good if they can just go stand at the feeder and eat. So I have been feeding a little bit of hay. I'm also doing what's called bale grazing, and I'm doing that in an attempt to increase the productivity of my hay fields. All right. And that's something that I'm going to do fall and winter, and it is a preparatory thing for spring and summer. I need to increase the yield of a couple of my fields, and one of the strategies I think I've told you guys about it is bale grazing. So I put bales out there, and then their manure gets distributed around where the bale is. Bale, I'm talking a big round bale. Put a bale ring over it, and then before too long here, I'm going to get out there and I'm going to do a lot of seeding. So just broadcast seeding of like 5 different species of grass. Some of it will take, some of it won't. I know that. If 10% of it were to take, I'd be thrilled. I'd be tickled. But their manure out there is going to increase the fertility overall. And that's really what I'm after, because I want more hay production. And um, if you haven't heard, we're kind of we're non-users of fertilizer, at least petrochemical fertilizer, because got to spend a lot of money on it, which decreases our bottom line. And also, petrochemical fertilizer is sort of like steroids for your ground. You'll get a bump out of it for sure, but at what cost? Am I willing to absorb that cost? And my answer is no. And you might think, well, you're cheap. But in my opinion, there are two costs. There is the cost that I have to write a check for the guy who's going to come and spread it. And they're usually the people you're buying it from. And the other cost is the cost to the microorganisms in the soil. And I couldn't even monitor if I'm losing microorganisms in the soil. I can't, because I can't count them. Hey, is everybody here? Everybody okay? No, you won't know until you've done it for the fifth season in a row, and all of a sudden your soil starts to the thatch on your soil starts to fall apart, and you get a decrease of production, and you pull the soil apart and hey, where are those worms? There's not a worm out here because you killed them all. That's why. What else did I kill? Oh, lots of stuff. So petrochemical fertilizer is, I suppose it has a place, but not on this farm. Not for me. I would rather go with a route where I'm supplementing the natural system of photosynthesis and take a smaller bump, but it'll be a more resilient bump, sort of like the marriage deal. You want to build it up over a lot of years. All right, so let me see what we got here. I had a couple people come in. Let's see what you got to say. Well, not really. Crunchy's here. Just finished the first beef kill of the season. All right. My client was a 14-year-old FFA kid. They had the meanest cow I've ever seen. He hated it so much, he did 2 days of tractor work to pay for the beef class. FFA, Father Farms Alone. That's what FFA is, huh? So you're teaching the kid to get out of farming, probably. No, I'm just kidding. Sean's doing a bang-up job out there in Elford, Texas, Crunchy Mama Farms. I wonder if you've done a beef harvest class yet. How that went. I'd be interested to hear that, because we haven't done it. We did just a starter class last year, and got a lot of good data from it, and was able to see that, hey, we could do this if we had to. But we determined then it was cold in December, and when you do a class like at your place, Sean, remember it was cold there, and I was expecting, hey, it's Texas. I was expecting it to be really warm. I didn't even bring long johns with me, which was a bad idea because it was windy the first day we were outside. But when we did our class here last year, it was just had friends over and just wanted to see, when you had, a group of people out there on a cow that had just been shot and bled, how did that go? How would that go with a group of people? Snow on the ground, 15 degrees outside probably, or 20 degrees. I don't remember what it was, but it was definitely not 30. It was cold. How would that go? And one of the things we saw was people were cold. And if people's hands get cold and they're using a knife, that leads to trouble. And we don't want that. That's the thing that we want the least, is for people to get injured. That is not a good thing. So that's when we decided, okay, we need a facility that's indoors where we can get a little bit of heat going. Just keep it, 35 degrees where people can work. Because when you're working, your hands will stay And then if it's 35, you can put them in your pockets and warm them up enough. But when it gets down about 10, 15 degrees, once you get cold, it's pretty hard to get them warmed up again for a lot of people that don't do it all the time. So when I say uh, hardiness and, let's say, resilient and um, resilient was a word, hardy, sustainable. When I say those words, I think that what I'm cautious of is giving you guys the idea that I came off the shelf as any of those things. I did not. I did not. I grew up in a house of I was the second youngest child, six kids, five girls and me. Right. So I was pretty timid as a kid. I got into a little bit of kickball once in a while, but it was a while before I started getting in with other groups and getting a little less timid. And I have a tendency to always fall back into that, being just a little wallflower. And resilience and mental toughness and all those things as a homesteader are attitudes that you have to work on. And when you are facing something like, let's say, going out the door in the morning, sometimes it can be very difficult. Like, you're heading into deep waters and you've got to do things that you don't want to do. And maybe things aren't going so good overall. Maybe, you know, we don't talk too much about finance here, but I know a lot of people that, and myself included, bad decisions lead to financial problems, and bad financial moves, you know, that makes things tougher. If there's no food for lunch, go out to work, but there's no food for lunch. And oh, by the way, the kid has a broken front tooth and we can't afford to get it fixed. That's a morale thing. And you might have a tendency to say, well, the heck with this. I'm going to go back to punching the clock at the, I don't know, factory or something, or I'm going to go back to being a lawyer or something like that. Um, and that mental toughness is something you just got to say, I'm doing it. I'm not going to accept defeat on this, and I will do it. And let's say you don't hate to go out the door in the morning. Let's say you're not hating it. You're just kind of like, ugh, I wish I didn't have to. It's a little bit of hatred there, but overcome it. Then the next day, it's like, not as hard. Go. Not as hard. Just go. Um, Making the right decisions become easier. I had to make a decision today. It was to do something that I really dislike, really, that actually will cause me heartache. But I had to weigh it out, and I had to say, no, this is what I have to do. This I can't not go the other ways. So that was a tough decision, but it will make the next one easier, right? So let's see. Sean's saying his little free advertising for Crunchy Mama, November 18th through 20th, first group beef class, and that is at Crunchy Mama Farms in Elford, Texas, and it is Baker's Green Acres endorsed. Highly, highly recommend. Highly recommend. I wish I could come, actually. All right, Sunset Heritage is saying, howdy, all the winter talk is depressing me. I can handle the cold. I just don't like the ice and heavy snow. Here is the thumb, here in the thumb area. All right, well, listen here, Lori. Then what you need to do is okay. You got two things listed there. You don't like heavy snow, and you don't like ice. I'm assuming you don't like ice because you could slip and fall on it. That is a hassle, isn't it? You walk out the door. Oh, that's happened to me. Walk out the door, slip, boom. Oh, I hate this. Or you slip just enough to you feel something in your guts just give away, like, what was the son of a. Here's what you got to do. You got to adapt and overcome. And I'm going to share with you just a little secret from Baker's Green Acres. And I got this from the guy at the hardware store. His name's Gordon. What you want to do is get these. I'm assuming that you have boots, like chore boots. I hope you do. If you don't, you do. You need to get a good pair of boots. You're in the thumb, you should have a good pair of boots. And I highly recommend dry shod boots. Dry shod boots. Muck boots, I moved away from them because they were bought by a woke group of people, so I'm not going to do business with them. Get dry shod boots. Dry shods are by the guy that created the company Muck, right? They were cheaper and they're better built. I just take it from me. Go look at them side by side. And they look better too. You look much cooler, because you got to look cool. I can't really tell from your thumbnail sketch there. Looks like you have a horse, but I really can't tell. It's too small. But you're gonna want to look cool going out for one. And if you know you look good going out to your homestead, things just get better from there, right? But then you take those dry shod boots, and you get these little screws. They are called self-tapping. They're self-tapping sheet metal screws. And when you're picking them out, look at them and then look at the head on them. And then you figure out which ones are going to slide the least. So if you get something with a really smooth head, that would be a bad idea. You want something with like a hex head on it, and you'll see. When you look at them, you'll see. You want the ones that you can drive in with a screw gun, and then a 5/16 socket. Those are the ones. And you want to get them about a half inch, or maybe 3/8 of an inch. Half inch might be a little too long. And then you sit down with your boots next to the wood stove, and you decide on a pattern that you're going to drive them into the bottom of your boots. And you put them in, and let's see, I think my boots I'll show you. Mine are in here, probably. I think I've showed these before, but well, they're not in here, but let me. All right, I found them. Okay, so here's one answer for you. Okay, you know what muck boots look like, but these are dry shods. See that? And there's people in the tribe. Amy Stumpo runs a store that sells these, and she's getting away from the muck boots. But here's what I was talking about. You see these screws right here? I drove them in with my screw gun. Now, these ones are not going to be any good because they're worn down. They're worn way down. They're not going to be any good at all. But I drive them in all the way around here and all the way in here. And, they'll wear out. But I just put new ones on. Like here's one that's worn out so bad that the heads come off. But that'd be from wearing them at the end of winter. And then I could have just taken them out, but I didn't. And it doesn't matter. I've got a box of these screws and I'll just reload them. And then when I go out and I don't slip, I just feel really empowered by it. So it's like I was saying, when you have a snowmobile and you're kind of feeling like, I wish it would snow. When you have dry shaw boots and you've put those cleats in them like that, it's kind of redneck cleats. You feel like, I wish it would get icy so I could try these out. And then you can go places and you can even sit and watch people fall and laugh at them. And you don't, because you've got these cleats in your dry shod boots and you're all set. You could even video it, right? So then you can watch it in the summertime when it's hot out. And you could say, boy, I wish it was winter time. Right. So that's one thing to help you. What was the other thing that you were complaining about, whining about, was the heavy snow. I don't know. I don't know. Let's see. The heavy snow. Heavy. You mean heavy like big boned, or I don't know what you're saying there. The heavy snow. Well, that tells me, I mean, you're not giving me a lot of information right here. And I can't tell by the thumbnail sketch. But maybe you could buy a snowblower, and that would help you with the heavy snow. Actually, you could get kind of art. You could be kind of artistic out there, and you could, with your snowblower, you could make pathways and fun thing for your kids or your, like, I can't really tell how old you are by this. I was going to say too, uh, not for you especially, because I can't really, I don't know, but heavy snow and moving that snow, you could be it could really enhance your tone. So you could, I don't know, like you could get a really nice snow shovel, and then when the snow comes down, you'd be like, yeah, let's get out there and shovel some snow. And you'd be building your muscles up. So in the wintertime, you got your dry shod boots, and you could actually create for yourself like a bodybuilding uh, discipline, and it includes moving heavy snow. So you'd be like waiting for the snow, and then your husband would be saying, "Wow, you're really getting in shape there, honey." And you'd be, "Yeah, it's shoveling the snow." Okay. I just got, let's see. Your story about the hose is just like me. I have to drag 150 feet of hose to water my cattle. Wow. Yeah. Another thing too, to combat the drudgery of that. Let's see, how far do I drag mine? would be to put the water trough closer to the source of water. Two miniature donkeys. What about them? I just got a new dry code winter boots. Must be dry shod's cheaper siblings. Oh, huh. Wet and 51. Could that mean you're 51 years old? Okay. Okay, Vindicti, I have 80 feet of hose to my chicken coop and I just never coil it up unless I need to mow. But what about in the wintertime? Oh, wet snow. Okay, you hate wet snow. Well, let's see. How could I make wet snow be more? I know. I got you. You're going to want to get into snow sculpting and wet snow. There's nothing like wet snow for snow sculpting, you know? And at age 51, by the time you're 61, you're going to be like the snow sculptor of the thumb. And you might even turn this, hey, listen, you could get with Sonia on this because she's quite artistic with uh, frosting. Frosting, snow, sort of the same. You could form a business called, I don't know what the business would be. I'm going out on a limb with this one. I better watch it. Okay, Arkansas winter is less of a problem than it is for y'all up in Michigan. You say y'all down there, don't you? All right. Well, I tell you what, things can change. I remember being in this group. It was a group that met, and it was called BNI, Business Networking International. I got in it when I was first here, and it was how to grow your business and all this stuff. And a lot of the people that were in that group were from here, and they would shudder when they started to talk about winter and how much they hated it and all this stuff. And I started to adopt those same um, attitudes about it. And then when the first snow would come, instead of seeing how beautiful it was and how my kids had a great time with it and all the opportunity that was there, I started looking at it like, oh, I hate the freaking snow. But I really didn't. My wife's grandfather said to me one time, I love the winter time. I love it. I wish it was winter all year long. And I thought maybe he was losing it, but he really did because he did stuff in the winter that he liked. He liked to go snowmobiling. So he had a good snowmobile that he could get on the trails and he could go places in the winter where you just cannot go in the summer. He liked to ice fish. He didn't particularly like fishing in the summertime. And I can see that because in the summertime, it's kind of like, the jet skis and the boats and too many people on the lake. And you have one fishing pole and, but with ice fishing, you can put out a whole bunch of tip ups and then you're just kind of waiting in your shack having coffee and one goes up over here and you dash out there to get it and one goes up over here. It's fun. And he really liked that. And he liked having people in, and people are less busy in the wintertime and they could come in and, chat with him and stuff. So I'm getting to the point where I don't mind winter as much. I get prepared for it. I got all my wood in. I spend a lot of time looking at my wood stove, saying how much I like my wood stove, putting wood in my wood stove, sitting near my wood stove, swimming in my pool in the wintertime like a lunatic, and then coming in and standing next to the wood stove. It's good. I say y'all to fit in with the locals, but I'm totally inauthentic. You should be saying, you should be saying, Arkansas winter is less of a problem than it is for yous up there in Michigan, eh? Right? That's what you should be saying. All right. Well, here we go. It's 9:25. We've done really good. We've had a good show. I really appreciate everybody hanging in there. I want to brief you all on theanyonecanfarmexperience.com. Theanyonecanfarmexperience.com. That is our .com um, address. And I would like to again ask you to help me out with continuing this mission. And please go there and sign up for the anyone sign up for Tribe Plus. Right, this is a tribe meetup. Here is what we do here, but we need to get everybody converted from just regular Tribe to Tribe Plus, and that it supports this mission or ministry, whatever you want to call it, and it also is an investment in yourself, right? Because there's information there that is going to help you along your way to homesteading superiority, and then part of homesteading superiority is passing it on to your friends, neighbors, and family, and that is good for America. And I'm not kidding; it is good for America. The things that we've done here have been good for this community. The community is where it's at. All right, so I'm going to get going here. Wednesday, tomorrow night, we are going to have our consulting call. I realize those of you that are Tribe members, Tribe Plus members, there are some glitches, but please be patient. They are working on this. They're having a meeting here tomorrow with the web guy, and then my two best staff members are going to try and hammer out. Right now, it's about 4 keystrokes to get in, and they want to get it down to one. I want to be a member, boop, and done. And then when you want to go in there, you can access all the information that's in there. And I'm telling you, there's more information than you could access in probably a couple of months if you digest it at a normal rate. And then Joe is adding content all the time, all the time. Some of the content that we planned to add there is how to build your own chicken processing business. So that's a business that you can do the preparation for in the wintertime. Get your signs out at the feed company and the farm and fleet store and all that stuff. And if in your first year you do 100 chickens for people in the neighborhood, plus your own, you can charge almost $5 a chicken. We charge $4.75, and I've done more chickens this summer than we've ever done. We're working 2 days, and we didn't really want to, but it's a great business, and if you need a stream of income into the homestead, consider it. And we're gonna get that content up there. We've got fence building, we've got hog processing up there. If you can't come to the class, that's the next best thing. We've got chicken production, we've got rabbit production, we've got starting a garden from zero. We're putting together new content all the time. I should have that stuff ready to roll off, but I don't. Okay, Keith, do you remember the walker with the water bottle? The walker with the water bottle. Yes. Yes. Oh, yeah. Keith is not, last winter was not as steady on his feet as he is now. And I remember he was using a walker to go out and take care of his homestead, and it had a water bottle mounted on it. That was pretty good. All right. I'm going to get going. Again, Homestead Hog Harvest is this weekend, and there's 2 seats that's open. If you all know people who would benefit from that and you think would take advantage of it, do me a solid and pass this information to them. Have them get over to the anyonecanfarmexperience.com and sign up. Love to have a couple extra people. If not, we will be talking to you on Thursday. Thursday is going to be our interview night, and I'm not sure who we're interviewing yet. That's not my department. I'm just the guy that does the interview, but that's coming Thursday. So please join up to the Tribe Plus and come into the consulting call tomorrow night. That's for Tribe Plus members. You get access to me. You can ask 1,000,001 questions. That's why we call it the consulting night. And, talk to people who know what they're doing, and it gets you much further ahead. All right. It's Mark coming to you from Baker's Green Acres. Remember, anyone can farm. Night, y'all.